Hello everyone, it's your little fuzzy pal Franklin here, back in the workroom among the brontosauruses who are in full cry today, by the way, so don't be too startled if you hear a lot of shrieking and banging and slamming of large metal objects, because it's bound to happen before I finish today. I am sort of trying to catch my breath on the end of a long string of days that were unusually productive. It feels really good to say that. For the past year or so, for reasons I don't think I even need to go into, do I? I have not been able to run at full steam, and maybe it's the return of spring and the coming back of the sunlight. But I seem to be coming back to life myself, and that feels really good. So, yes, I've been very busy. New piece of knitting. This is not the everlasting sideways linen stitch scarf. This is a shawl pattern from the 1880s, possibly from the 1890s. There's not really a way to get a solid exact date on it. It was published in the 1880s, 1890s, and it's quite lovely. It has a very leafy, lacy center, and then a coordinating but not matching edging that's done afterwards and sewn on. It's looking to be very pretty. I'll put up some footage of the test swatch that I did for it when I was testing the pattern so you can see it, because of course right now, as laces want to do, it looks like a big wad of used Kleenex. So yes, I'll put up some alternative footage so you can see what it looks like. The purpose for this shawl is, number one, I really had not done a large lace piece in a while, and I thought it would be fun to do that. And also, this will be the next pattern with videos to support it and blog posts and things like that. This will be the next pattern that I give to my Patreon patrons as one of their benefits of membership. It's a lot of fun. It allows me to pick a pattern that certainly that I will enjoy working on and that I am enjoying working on. But also, when I pick the patterns, I pick them because there needs to be something interesting about them. An unusual technique or construction, or something about the way that the pattern has been designed that is interesting to talk about. Will it be a piece that will help a knitter come out a stronger knitter at the other end? I think in this case the answer is yes. There are an awful lot of interesting things about the structure of this shawl and how it was written. And it was written so cleverly that you'll notice that here I am talking to you while I work on this and not referring to the pattern. In fact, this is typically me. I'm not exactly sure where the pattern is at the moment. I don't even know if it's at the workroom. And yet, here I am working merrily along on this shawl. And why is that? That is because this pattern was so cleverly written that a knitter who has learned to recognize certain common repetitions and techniques and their common arrangements within pieces of knitting, that sort of knitter can pick up something like this that gives the impression of being wildly complex, especially to someone who doesn't knit. And that complexity, however, is based on a system of maneuvers so simple that the pattern truly is easy to memorize. By the time that I got about to the third or fourth repeat, I had cracked the code enough that I no longer need to refer to the pattern as I move along with the center. And I think that's probably what I'm going to offer by way of support and chit-chat and additional study and interest with this pattern, is that idea of, when you knit, learning to not look at a piece of knitting only stitch by stitch, row by row, but to learn to read your knitting and pay attention to how knitting works, until what you're able to do is look at a piece of knitting and rather than trying to see it stitch by stitch by stitch by stitch, to see it as a series of, what's the word that I'm looking for? A series of components. And you can break it down into those components. And then those components are made up usually of arrangements and maneuvers that you will be familiar with from other knitting. This probably does not sound wildly clear, and I apologize for that for now. I think that's about as much as I want to say. I don't know if what I want to talk about can be explained very clearly in this kind of off-the-cuff, unscripted setting. So what I will be doing is I'll be making some videos to go along with this, further elaborating on what I talk about, what I've been talking about. And for the moment, I'm also just really enjoying knitting this piece. It's very relaxing, and the yarn is making me awfully happy as well. This is Sophistisock from MJ Yarns. As usual, I'll put all of the information down in the show notes below. So, yeah, so I have been working on this, but aside from this, there are several other projects that I am really happy to be working on. Number one, I'd like to put this out there, is that the Foxe and Boxe Dollhouse book project that I mentioned in our last visit, the Foxe and Boxe project now has a launched official website at foxeandboxe.com. And it spent about a week being behind a password and only available to my Patreon patrons. And they had a good run around in it, found some goofs, which I have fixed, and now the thing is up for anybody who'd like to see where the project is going. The book is not ready for order yet, but the site will show you an awful lot. I've got information about the house in there, where it came from, how I've worked on it, and the cast of characters is in there with all of their biographies. If you think that sort of thing is interesting, then please do stop by foxeandboxe.com, and I hope that you'll enjoy yourself. So there's that, and that was a big deal. Getting that website put together and out, there was a lot more writing than I really anticipated. About, I would say, 80% of the writing on the website is either brand new or heavily revised versions of things that have been written before. So that was a lot of work, and almost all the photos are new as well. And so there's that I've been working on. And then, of course, there was the Unexpected project. And the Unexpected project, if you saw my last vlog episode, you will have gotten just a little glimpse at the end, and that was the mysterious sewing machine, the hand crank Singer from 1910 that was left on my workroom doorstep. No one has stepped forward, by the way, to claim responsibility for this wonderful gift. The poor thing was dusty and grimy, but still moving fluidly and more or less complete. The only thing that was missing was a single plate that was easy to purchase a replacement. And so I've got the sweet thing cleaned up and just about tuned up, and I have been filming the process of bringing the sewing machine back to life, the sewing machine and its case as well. That's been a lot of fun, and I'll be releasing that video, mind you, not as a how-to. There are a lot of really, really excellent vintage sewing machine restoration videos, and in fact whole channels that are on YouTube that are produced by experts. And I will put links to a few episodes by a few creators that I find are particularly good and have been useful to me. I'll put those down below as well. And so this video will not really be a how-to. This video, what I'm aiming for is more restoration eye candy for those of us who like to see a lovely old machine brought back to life and put to use again. So that's my goal with it. I'll put up some footage of some of the video in progress. Working on that machine was such a pleasure, just such a pleasure. So beautifully made, all the parts so beautifully created when they beautifully made when the machine was first created, that now with just a little bit of cleaning they move fluidly, and the machine makes the most beautiful little clicking sound when you operate it. A lot of people are crazy nuts about these machines, and that includes me, and there's a reason for that. And I hope this video that I'm putting together will help you to see why. In other previews of coming video attractions for the channel, I got the top-down saddle shoulder sweater washed and blocked. And I also videoed that process because I decided I think that will probably be the next video that comes out on my channel, will be about how simple and straightforward it is to wet block a piece like a sweater, really to wet block any kind of knitting or crochet that you'd like to do. But I'm going to focus on garments, pieces like sweaters that are usually not lacy and usually do not require a severe blocking, which is to say they do not require that the piece be stretched or pinned out while it is being blocked. It's just sort of patted into shape. You'll see in the video. As I've been putting more technique videos together, I really have been thinking a lot about what happens in the classroom and where do the questions from students come in, what do they ask about a lot, and focusing on those topics, so that when I'm back in the classroom and a student says, so how would you recommend blocking such and such, I'll be able to say, I have a video for that, and here it is. Post-blocking, the sweater is even more luscious than it was pre-blocking. It has bloomed into an incredible drapey, cuddly softness that is comforting, does not begin to describe it. The sweater is basically just a hug, and I absolutely adore it. So now that I've finished it, I'm looking forward to doing the same pattern again. However, I will be using the Franco.com pattern for the top-down saddle shoulder, but I will, instead of doing it in a worsted weight, I will be doing it in a fingering weight. So that's going to take longer. And it's also going to have some textural details in it that I've been planning out. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm slightly nervous, but you know, I need to have one nervous-making project in the works at all times to really feel happy with what I'm doing. If you only ever knit what you know you can knit, that includes techniques and methods that you've used before, I can't speak for anybody but me, so I will say this about myself. I get bored really fast, even with knitting. Even as wonderful as knitting is, as central as it is to my life, if for example I had to just keep knitting the same stocking over and over and over and over and over again, like the cottagers in the story of Little Kitty. I'll put a link to that for those of you who might have missed Little Kitty. Interesting listen, I think. If I had to just knit the same stocking over and over and over and over again, I don't think I would enjoy knitting. I don't think it would be a pleasure. I don't think it would be a comfort. I like variety. And so at any given time, I will have things as brainless as that linen stitch scarf, and something sort of in the medium range, which would be something like this shawl, would fall into that category, where I need to pay some attention to it, but it's not a real brain teaser. And then a piece like this upcoming fingering weight sweater, which is going to be a puzzle. I have not started it yet because there are one or two places where I need to think a little more about how I'm going to tackle a particular transition, for example, between this stage of the knitting and that stage of the knitting. And for that reason, I will say that I'm awfully glad that I did the plain vanilla version of the top-down method in the heavier gauge before jumping into the more complicated one. I feel like I have a leg up now on doing that. And it's a rare example of my thinking of something that I've done and saying to myself, well, you planned that rather well, didn't you? And so that was my week, or I suppose at this point it's a week and a few days, and it's been extremely enjoyable. I have a bunch of other things that I want to do. I have a project where I want to try and make myself a hat like this. You'll notice I'm usually wearing a hat in here. Very drafty studio. I want to make a hat for myself, and I want to make it insofar as possible without any electricity at all. So we'll see how that goes. In the meanwhile, I hope to see you again soon, and even before then, I hope to have released at least one of the videos that we talked about. So either the sewing machine restoration video or the wet blocking the sweater video. And I hope that you will join me for those as well. Until then, keep making whatever it is you're making, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel so you'll be the first to know about future episodes. Click like or leave me a comment to let me know your thoughts. And if you really, really liked what you saw, check out my Patreon campaign, where my patrons enjoy exclusive access to downloads, live streams, and other bonus material every week.